So, since last year, as one of my many side projects, I've been working on a fan comic called the Dream Discoveries Tour. It basically reimagines the backstory of Kirby and the Forgotten Land, with Ulin growing up in Lab Discovera as a foster child/test subject instead of escaping. Meanwhile, Fecto Forgo is tormenting him with visions and nightmares, trying to convince him that he doesn't truly belong with his family. I guess I'd classify it as a horror comic. I feel like that's the genre it belongs in. But personally, I don't see it as a scary story. Like, I don't really write it with the intent to freak people out. I admit that it's creepy, but I just happen to think that Fecto Forgo is a creepy character. So naturally, a story where they have such a strong influence would be a reflection of them. And just as naturally, a story about an alien child being raised by scientists who were technically hired to study him would have a lot of unsettling themes and implications. Anyway, since the comic is roughly halfway through its run, I've decided to start converting it into video form. Basically, I'm finally going to be producing a real comic dub, complete with music, sound effects, and voice acting. Truth be told though, I don't really want to be the one who has to make it, not if I can help it. I'm already busy with a million things, and I already made the source material. This time I'd honestly be interested to see how someone else might try to present this story in a new medium. Which is why the first new position I'm looking to fill is a video editor. Someone who will actually be doing the work of creating the comic dub, and basically setting the pace for each episode. If you've ever made a comic dub before, or if you have some experience with simple video editing, panning and zooming and making cuts and all that, you'll probably be a good fit for this position. You'll be as good a fit as I am anyway, so you might as well shoot your shot. The second position I'm recruiting for is a sound editor. This person will be working closely with the video editor and basically setting the tone for each episode. Any sound effects associated with Ulin's creepy hallucinations, for instance, would be their responsibility. They'd also be responsible for scoring the music submitted by other team members, and adding the voice work from the actors. And if anyone out there would like to apply as both sound and video editor, that works too. After all, the tasks are pretty closely linked. And now for the part everyone's been waiting for, the voice actors. There are 8 available roles for the entire story, and we have a much wider variety this time, so I'm excited to hear what people are going to try to bring to these characters. First up, we have the starring role, Ulin. The story is about him, and he's present in almost every episode, so naturally this will be the biggest role with the largest number of lines. I'm looking for a young masculine voice, something relatively soft but with a lot of emotional range. Ulin goes through all the changes in this story. He has happy moments, sad moments, moments when he cries, and moments when he yells in anger. There are even moments where he goes a little crazy and does all that at once. Basically, this is a role that's going to take some real effort, and one I'll be casting very carefully. Next up, we have Ulin's parents, Carol and Leon. These characters are also featured prominently and have a lot of lines, especially Leon, who kinda takes Ulin's place as the main character near the end of the story. For Carol, I'm looking for a mature feminine voice, something that feels serious and in control. Carol does have a fun side to her personality that comes out every once in a while though, so that's important too. Honestly, whatever you think of as a mom voice will probably be appropriate for the character. Now for Leon, I'm looking for a mature masculine voice, obviously, but I think there are a lot of ways this character could be played. Like, do you want him to sound like a typical dad? Do you want him to sound like a science nerd? Do you want to take inspiration from the canon and make him sound like a talking lion? I can see how all of these options could potentially work, and I'm excited to see what the prospective voice actors come up with for him. What I'm looking for specifically is emotional range, because he goes through pretty much everything Ulin goes through. Their character arcs kind of mirror each other. I'm also looking for kindness, because that's the core of his character. Leon is a very sensitive, caring person, and we need to be able to hear that when he speaks. Next up, there's the other Lab Discovera researchers, Gorman, Dylan, and Florine. These are more minor characters with far fewer lines. I think Dylan and Flo only appear in 1 episode, but they do still need to be voiced, and if you're okay with a smaller role, or if you'd like a little extra role in addition to a big one, feel free to try for one of these. Of the 3, Gorman has the most lines. I'm looking for another mature masculine voice. but maybe one that has a quieter, more apathetic tone. I mean, just look at his face. You see what I mean, right? For Florine, I'm looking for an elderly, feminine voice. I've never auditioned anyone who's supposed to sound old before, so this is going to be interesting. This character's voice should be stern and cold-hearted. She's not a very nice person. Now for Dylan, I'm looking for a masculine voice, but beyond that, I don't really care. At this moment in time, he only has one line in the whole story. I think whatever a potential voice actor might come up with for him will probably work fine, and if I really like it, I may consider giving him another line later on. He does appear one last time near the end, so it's a possibility. Last but not least are Disembodied Voices, Fecto Forgo and the Dream Discoveries Tour announcer. Fecto Forgo isn't always disembodied. We do occasionally get to look at them while they're talking telepathically. But since they're basically in a coma, obviously they don't move, so it'll be up to the voice actor to bring life to our main antagonist. I'm looking for a calm yet evil voice, something kinda sinister and intimidating, that really emphasizes the feeling that Ulin shouldn't be talking to them or listening to them. I've always imagined Fecto Forgo with a masculine voice, but if you think you can pull off a feminine voice with the same sort of vibe, I'd definitely be willing to consider it. I think, in this case, the energy is more important than the gender. Finally, we will have a tour announcer, just like the one in the real game. They will basically be rereading that script, but they will also be reading off a modified version of the script for something that happens later in the story. So, just 2 appearances, but I still consider this an important role. The friendly tour guide energy of their voice will do a lot to sell the unsettling vibe of the story, especially if I go with one of my early ideas for this project and convert the thrilling tour chapter into an opening credits sequence that plays before every episode. This is another role where I'm willing to be flexible on the gender of the voice. It would be cool if you sounded like the lady from the game, but if you think you can recreate the vibe with a masculine voice, I'd be open to that too. So, in conclusion, we're looking for a sound editor, a video editor, and voice actors for 8 different roles. Additional instructions and guidelines for auditions are in the description. And this time, I'm going to give a full 3 weeks before the submission deadline, March 24th. I hope you're as excited for this new project as we are, and I'm looking forward to going through all your auditions. Best of luck, and remember the deadline is March 24th.